Hello everybody, Xlelius here, and today we're going to start the second generation of Fire Emblem Seven Keys. The second generation is where things are really going to open up for the player. There's going to be a lot more side objectives, there's going to be more characters, more options for the player in general. Skip through some of this. Alright, so the second generation is about 18 years after the first one. So we start off with a whole new cast of characters. And our new main lord is Sinclair's daughter, Elizabeth. She is a mounted sword user, and unlike the first generation where all the chapters were indoors and all of our units were dismounted, second generation is going to have a lot of mounted units, and the maps are going to be a lot larger, and there's going to be a lot more side objectives, so our having mounted units is going to make it easier to get from place to place to complete side objectives and things like that. Unfortunately, it also means that if an enemy has like a Zanbato or a Horse Slayer, that it's going to be quite threatening to most of our group. So in addition to Elizabeth, we have Shay, who is the son of Istol from the first generation, the cleric that we busted out of prison. He's going to be a bit slower than Elizabeth, but also probably a bit stronger. He can also use both swords and axes. If either of these two die, we get a game over. So that's important to keep in mind when using Shay to sort of choke points or something like that. Also, we have Lilwyn, who is a sword cavalier, and Tegan, who is a lance cavalier. They're pretty much your standard early game cavaliers in that one of them's fast, one of them's strong. But they also stand out because Lilwyn has a skill, Guardian, that reduces physical damage to adjacent allies, which is very useful for if we wanted to hold a choke point like one of these bridges. And Tegan has the Ice Dragon affinity, or lineage. So, if you remember Xlelius from the first generation, the lance that Dagald had, she would be capable of wielding that. So that'll be important to remember later on. And the last character to join us is Lionel, back from the first generation where we killed him. I would have liked to have shown off what would happen if Lionel had survived the first generation, but I also really didn't want to play through Chapter 5 all over again. But if he had survived, he actually would have passed his stats on to the second generation. So he would have come back with more strength and a lot more HP and probably some more defense or luck or speed even. I'm not sure what his luck or skill were before, but if he had survived the first generation, he would have had much better stats. But he still has the provoke skill, which was his most important quality. So we can still use him for manipulating enemy AI to our advantage. We also have Elias from the first generation. He's back, but he's a green unit, so we don't get to use him. He's going to defend this mansion here with his buddy, his general, who is actually Lilwyn's father, but that's not incredibly important at the moment. They're going to hold this mansion from the enemies while we make our escape. So our goal will be to reach this village here, which is going to be our escape point. And to do that, we're going to have to go through all of these enemies. But the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take Shay and I'm going to move him back to the mansion, actually. And while he's doing that, I'm going to use Tegan to fight this soldier. Now if I bring Lilwyn over here, her skill will actually make it so that Tegan doesn't take hardly any damage from the soldier at all. I'm going to take this Night Sword off of Lionel for right now, just so that Elizabeth has another weapon. Save some of the Regal Sword for a little bit later. So yeah, these guys are defending this mansion, and we don't really have to worry about them. They're going to handle themselves just fine. In fact, Elias might not even really get to do anything if Godfrey handles all these guys. Elias probably won't even get to do anything. So, move Shay back to the mansion, which actually triggers a little event. It doesn't do a whole lot for us right now, but it'll help us with something later. Which will happen several times throughout the second and third generation, is things that we do earlier will affect things that we do later. So something that we might do here, like trigger this conversation with Shay, might actually trigger another event a few chapters from now. So definitely check things out if they look suspicious, or if you think something... If there's some sort of side objective that you think might have some benefits, I definitely encourage the player to check it out, take risks, and experiment. Because who knows if it'll pay off for you later. Him to distract enemies for me. Not at the moment, I don't need him to. When I get closer to those Cavaliers and the Great Knight, then I'm probably going to want to have him around. A little risky, but what I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to keep Elizabeth and Tegan in the forests, and then I'll pull Lilwyn in behind them to give them that defense boost, so they shouldn't have any trouble with these mercenaries. Shay's catching up. try and clear out more of these guys. I'm going to pull Lionel in here. To distract some of these enemies while I try and deal with this mercenary who has decided to put himself in this forest, which is annoying. Very annoying. Yeah, what I said before about not having any trouble with the mercenaries is definitely a lie. I'm having trouble with the mercenaries. But that's what we have Lionel for. Alright, now Shay can come to save the day, hopefully. Maybe not quite, but... pull Shay in here like this. At least get him a little bit of experience. The other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and unequip Lionel. He's not in any danger, so... I'm going to use other units to take those guys out. At least let Shay see a little bit of action in this chapter. So our next obstacle is going to be those Cavaliers. we kind of need some healing, so we're gonna use those forts to our advantage. Use those forts to our advantage while we also deal with the Cavaliers. Both of the Cavaliers reach that first fort. That's right. I forgot that I traded the X off of Lionel, but that's fine. I'll equip the axe on Shay, compare him with Lowen so that he gets a sweet defensive bonus, and lure those Cavaliers in. Nice. Nice. Go. Oh, we're actually getting strength on Elizabeth. That's good. Now with this setup, I should be alright to deal with the other Cavalier. He shouldn't be too big of a problem. I could have equipped the sword on Shay, so he wouldn't get doubled there, and also so he'd have better accuracy, but worked out. Go. Alright, we'll spend a little bit of time healing here, and then we are gonna get out of town. I'm gonna go up here. That should pull the archer down. And then we can deal with him. And then we'll just have the boss left. When it comes to dealing with this boss, Lionel is going to be very useful for us. As a Great Knight, he's kind of strong. He's also got a bit of defense. So as you see, we can't really... Most of our units won't stand too good of a chance against him. So we can use Lionel to distract him while our other units get to work. I traded that Knight Sword to Elizabeth, and I'm just using the Regal Sword for everything anyway. position here. Give Elizabeth a defense bonus. While she deals with this boss. Hopefully, between the two of them, Shay and Tegan can take down this archer. But that remains to be seen. There we go. Alright. Now that he's taken care of, we'll be able to make our escape. We were able to get a few levels on Elizabeth. I think we are good to go. These enemies aren't going to move, and we can't actually get to them because of the river and the mountain, so we can't fight them. They're just there to look at. So we're going to go ahead and make our escape. And that completes Chapter 7, the first chapter in the second generation. As our characters make their escape from their country, which is now torn up in civil war after the death of King Sinclair. We'll find out what happens next time in Chapter 8.